All right, Shalom. I want to start off as always by giving all praises and glory unto Yahweh, Bahashim Yahushai, Bahashim Rachah HaKodash. The abundance unto the apostles, the elders, and the bishops, of Great Millstone. I want to send much love unto the brothers out there doing this work in truth and sincerity. And I also want to send peace and blessings unto the believers of the hopeful elect. And in this morning's lesson, I wanted to build off this precept here in Isaiah chapter 31, verse 4 and 5, and also get other supporting precepts. And Lord willing, this is edifying. So, getting into Isaiah 31 and verse 4, it says, "For thus hath the Lord Yahweh spoken unto me, like as the lion and the young lion roaring on his prey, when a multitude of shepherds is called forth against him, he will not be afraid of their voice, nor abase himself for the noise of them. So shall the Lord of hosts come down to fight for Mount Zion and for the hill thereof." Now, if you ever watch a nature documentary or anything concerning lions, all right, and their nature, if you ever seen shepherds approach lions, they don't flinch or move, even though the shepherds will yell and throw things at the lions will still stay there because his mindset is fixed on maybe grabbing a sheep or a cattle or something to eat. All right. So the shepherds making noise and, grabbing weapons or whatnot is not going to make the lion run away in certain cases. Right. And so the Lord, he compares his return unto that. Now we know in the book of 2 Ezra chapter 13, right, it speaks about how our Lord is going to see the violence of the multitude come against him and how he won't flinch, right? So let's read that real quick. This is 2 Ezra 13. And let's try to get to the point here. This is 2 Ezra 13 and verse 3. It says, "And I beheld, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him." So what Ezra is seeing here in this vision, he's seeing the return of our Lord Yahweh, whom the world calls Christ or Jesus, right? That's what he's seeing in the vision. Verse 4 says, "And whensoever the voice went out of his mouth," it says, and whensoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burnt that heard his voice, like as the earth felleth when it filleth the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together a multitude of men out of number from the four winds of heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea." Now, who was this multitude, right, that came up against Yahushua when he revealed himself in the heavens? Okay, who was this multitude? If you go to Revelation chapter 19 and verse 19, okay, the Apostle John, he reveals, right, or through the Spirit, that these multitude of men who will attack Yahushua, so-called, is talking about all of the armies of the earth, in particular the beast, right, or with the whore, okay, but all the other nations, but mainly the Edomite armies, okay, the Edomite nations, because it tells you in the scriptures how the 10 horns will fight against the lamb. But I'll grab those precepts here. All right, don't want to miss the point. So going to Revelation chapter 19, it tells you here, it says, Revelation 19, verse 19, "And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. So the prophet Esdras or Ezra and the prophet or the apostle, right? John saw the same vision. They saw Yahushua return, and then they saw the nations and the armies gathered together to fight against Yahushua, right? So also in Revelation 17, it tells you here, Revelation 17 and starting in verse 12, it says, "And the 10 horns which thou sawest are 10 kings, which receive no kingdom as yet, but receive power as kings 1 hour with the beast. These have one mind, and shall give their power and strength unto the beast. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them. For he is Lord of lords and King of kings, and they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful." So these individuals, right, these nations, but in particular these Edomite nations, are going to try to fight Yahushua, right? And they're going to lose. Thus said the Bible. So going back to Esdras and verse 2nd Esdras 13 and 6, it says, "But I beheld, and lo, he had graved himself a great mountain, and flew upon it. But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not," because our Lord Yahushua, he wasn't on an actual mountain, okay? He was on a huge so-called UFO or UAP, okay? And it looked like a mountain unto the prophet Esdras, okay? From his point of view, from what he saw, it was so massive, it was like a mountain. And so Esdras said, um, he pretty much looked to see if a mountain was taken out of a certain region. But it wasn't a mountain. It was a huge chariot that our Lord flew upon, okay? Keep that in mind. He flew upon it, okay? So whom you call Christ, whose name is Yahushua, all right? When he returns, according to the scriptures, he's going to be flying on something, okay? Something that's very massive, huge. And he's going to be controlling it, okay? This is what the prophet is telling us. So when you hear us talk about so-called UFOs or UAPs, we're not just making it up. We're actually reading the Bible to you, showing you that our Lord is going to be flying on something, right? And then it says, "But I would have seen the region or place whereout the hill was graven, and I could not. And after this I beheld, and lo, all they which were gathered together to subdue him were sore afraid, and yet thus fight." So when they see Yahushua return in this massive chariot, man, okay, they're going to be afraid, because our Lord Yahushua, his entrance is going to be glorious, okay? It's going to be mind-boggling to see him crack the heavens, so to speak, man. It's going to be amazing. But yet, the Lord going to make them fight him just for entertainment purposes, okay? Because they can't touch the Lord, but he's going to make them fight. Then it says, "And lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lift up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war." And I wanted to get this precept here in particular because it lines up with Isaiah 31 and verse 4, right? As I was explaining earlier, how a lion won't pretty much run because the shepherd is, making noise or throwing something at him. They don't always get the lion to run away, especially if it's hungry. If it's hungry, there's a high chance he won't run away. If anything, he'll grab your behind up, okay? But the Lord, right, he compares his return unto that. He's going to see the violence of the multitude, Esau's, technology, okay? but that won't move him. Verse 9 again, and lo, as he saw the violence of the multitude that came, he neither lift up his hand, nor held sword, nor any instrument of war. But only I saw that he sent out of his mouth, as it had been a blast of fire, and out of his lips a flaming breath. And out of his tongue he cast out sparks and tempests. And they were all mixed together, the blast of fire, the flaming breath, and the great tempest, and fell with violence upon the multitude, which was prepared to fight, and burnt them up every one, so that upon the sudden of an innumerable multitude nothing was to be perceived, but only dust and smell of smoke. When I saw this, I was afraid. So the prophet Esdras, he saw Yahushua destroy the armies of the earth. Okay, the beasts and their armies, and the kings of the earth and their armies. He saw them get destroyed with a blast from Yahushua. And all he saw was dust and smell of smoke after that so-called fight, okay? Because it won't be a fight, man. It's going to be easy work for Yahushua, okay? So going back to Isaiah 31 and verse 5 now, it says, as birds flying, so will the Lord of hosts defend Jerusalem. Defending also, he will deliver it, and passing over, he will preserve it. So our Lord is going to be flying, right? As birds fly, okay? In them chariots. And he's coming to save the elect and to defend the elect, right? To fight for Zion. That's what he's going to do, all right? Oh, also back in 2nd Esdras, I read verse 49. It says, now when he destroyed the multitude of the nations that were gathered together, he shall defend his people that remain, and then shall he show them great wonders. So this goes hand in hand with Isaiah 31 in the 5th verse about the Lord coming back in the chariots and defending Jerusalem or the elect. And he's going to destroy the nations, and then he's going to save the elect. So our Lord coming to fight, he's coming to save. This is what Bible prophecy is telling us, right? So I'll close out with that, man. I'm going to get here to work. Lord willing, it was edifying. All praise Yahweh, Shem El Shai, Shem Chakadash. Shalom.